Welcome to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Galt. I'm a messenger with United Network News, and we are the official news channel for CARE, which stands for the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. And that's what we're all about. We are about moving humanity and all beings on Earth, moving us forward into what we call the new Earth, which is a beautiful place. And in order to effectively do that, we have to know what's happening on this planet and even other things that are impacting this planet. So we discuss the real news. And we have a newscast that's released through our online distribution platform, which you can find at unitednetwork.tv. And our newscast comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And what we do on this podcast is we highlight some of the stories that we talk about on the newscast. That includes our field messenger reports, as well as stories of the new Earth and what to expect with restoration and some of the incredible things that are coming our way. We talk about regional stories, which you may see out there, in mainstream media, but we try to take a different approach to it. And we try to look behind the headlines, right? Sometimes you have to read between the lines with these articles to really find out what's going on. And then we have something completely unique to our show, which is the World Situation Report. And Kimberly Gogan comes on, and she is ground command on this planet. And if you haven't heard of that position before, most people probably haven't. You are in good company. Stick with us, though, and we will explain as much as we possibly can and get you caught up. So we have access to the highest security clearance on the planet. That's why we have information that you are never going to find on mainstream media or even the alternative media. Because the truth is, the same people for years and years and years have run both groups. And it's to appear as if people have a choice, right? There's a good side and a bad side. There's a light side and a dark side. Well, that part is true. There is a light side and a dark side. But when it comes to media, all of that is run by the same people. They're just giving you this illusion, and they're separating out the narrative so you feel like you're doing something different than the other side. But really, it's just to keep you busy. But that's not what we do here. We want you to think critically. We want you to do your own research. And we want you to develop your own discernment. Because with so much disinformation and misinformation out there, the only thing you can truly count on is what your body is telling you. Believe it or not, we have built-in lie detectors within our body, and it is a frequency. And if you tune into that frequency, you will be able to tell if someone is lying or not. And once you turn that on, trust me, you can't turn it off. And we think that's a good thing. All right, are we ready to get started with today's episode? Here is the rundown for Monday, October 23rd, 2023. We always kick off our newscast with our field messenger reports. And these are people just like you that are out in their own communities, and they want to report the truth of what's really taking place. There is no need for us to have and fly around these quote unquote reporters that really just give you a certain narrative about what's happening in the world. Why don't we have the local people tell us what's going on? I would believe that much more than some corporate person that's flying all over the place, right? So that's you. You are our field messengers, and you are the heart and soul of what United Network News is all about. If you are interested in becoming a field messenger, I encourage you guys to check out our news portion of our website, which is unitednetwork.news. And there's a whole section for field messenger information. So check that out. It's real easy to do. You don't have to have any prior experience. You just have to have a willingness to pick up a camera and tell us the truth about what you see happening. So we've got 3 stories today, actually. Usually we only have 2, but it's encouraging, the more reports that we, have submitted, then the more reports we're going to put on the news. I foresee a time when United Network News is primarily all field messenger reports. So this is exciting for us. Our first story comes from Amy in New Jersey, and this is her take and her understanding of bioengineered food ingredients. So you can find information out there online. So if you search for bioengineered food or food ingredients, something like that, information is going to pop up. And this will probably lead you down some rabbit holes, okay? What Amy talks about in her report is kind of a warning for people. This is obviously something she's very passionate about, and she wants people to understand that their food is being genetically engineered. Now, she actually grabs a package of something and shows you what to look for in the labels and all that kind of stuff. And what she has to say, I think, is really interesting because she talks about, and I didn't even realize this was the case until this report, but she talks about how, you see stuff like, non-GMO foods, or, genetically modified foods, and you hear this in the media, but what in the world does that actually mean? Well, if something has been genetically engineered, that means its DNA has been changed. And you can do this with food as well. So you are changing the genetic composition of whatever it is that you're eating. Most of the time, it's making it bad in some way or another. It's going to make you sick. It's going to cause some sort of illness in your body or something like that. And Amy also talks about mRNA. Now, we have heard that with regards to the COVID jabs, right? And we know that the jabs have mRNA and that there's gene therapy and everything in all of that. Well, mRNA is something that naturally occurs in our body, and it takes the info, like when cells are replicating, it takes the information, the DNA from one cell, and it applies it to another, which isn't a bad thing unless you're trying to mutate and cause a bunch of changes in DNA, which is what they're trying to do with this genetically modified food. So this mRNA can be found in some of this food, and then you consume it, and then the idea is it starts to change your DNA. Now, this was the first time that I had actually put all of this together, thanks to Amy. And this is why we do these field messenger reports. Sometimes it takes someone, not officially on the news or what, not that you would even hear this story on mainstream media, but sometimes you need someone to break it down a little bit more simply. And I think Amy does a good job with this. And of course, all of this is being done without the people having informed consent. I mean, first of all, who would consent to have their DNA changed? That just doesn't even make sense. Unless you're going to upgrade me and add a bunch of strands of DNA that you originally took out, don't touch my DNA, right? So that's our first field messenger report. Thank you to Amy from New Jersey for that. Our second story comes from Owen in South Africa. And this is a beautiful story about community. So Owen had a storm that came through his community. And, he shows us, us these pictures. And there was a particular area that was important, at least to this group of people that he was with. And they have a beach. And there's a parking lot that's next to the beach. But because of this storm, this entire parking lot was just covered. I mean, you couldn't even tell it was a parking lot. Not at all. It looked like a field of some sort with a bunch of debris all over it. But a group of people in his community said, no, we're going to do something about this. And so a bunch of volunteers got together, and I believe they did this in like 3 or 4 hours. But he interviews some of the people, and they come and they clean up the whole mess. I mean, they're out there with their brooms and shovels and all different ages. They interviewed some of the volunteers, and it's a testament of what we can do. Do we have to wait for someone to come save us? No, we don't. We can grab our shovels, we can grab our brooms and our trash bags and all that kind of stuff and take care of each other. So, Owen, thank you for this story. It was just a beautiful reminder of how heartwarming and sensitive and just compassionate humanity can be. And our final story is from Mike in Louisiana. And Mike had an interesting sight happen over his house. Doesn't happen every day. There were 6 military jets circling his neighborhood. Okay, not his particular house. He wasn't in trouble or anything like that. But apparently they went around 11 times. And he shows us the video from it. These are really big jets. It didn't look like it was like a chemtrail kind of thing. There wasn't anything coming out of the jets or anything. But you don't see that happen every day. And you have to look up if you see these kind of huge jets flying over your home and wondering what in the world is going on. We do have a Telegram group where our field messengers can chat back and forth. And someone did ask Mike later on, hey, did you ever find out what that was for? And he said there was a report in the local news that evening that a few EMTs were called to the airport in Alexandria, Louisiana, to assist with military personnel who were suffering from heat exhaustion due to military exercises. So was it military exercises they were doing? And why were they doing it there? It's just, we all need to be more mindful of what's happening. We see stuff in the sky and, we just take everything for granted. Oh, it's just supposed to be there. What? No, not necessarily. So this was an interesting video. Thank you, Mike, for showing us what was happening literally right above your head in your home. Now let's talk about the new Earth and what to expect and restoration. I feel like this is the real uplifting part of the newscast, and it's one of my favorite parts. So we had an interview today with Starry Hilder, who has been on our newscast before. She's a popular YouTuber, and she talks a lot about sustainability. And I sat down and I talked with Starry about buying property off grid. Now, the conversation we had, I thought was really interesting because Starry has purchased property off grid. She's made some mistakes in the past. And the whole idea was to inform people of a laundry list. There was like 6 or 7 things, maybe even more, that she went through. Things like getting to know your neighbors or your potential neighbors first. Like, don't just buy property because it's, you think it looks good and whatever. Like, go and talk to your neighbors. Researching different ordinances to make sure you can do what you want to do on your property. She was telling some stories about how other sustainable living people on YouTube had purchased a property and they didn't even check to see if they could have chickens. And then they got these chickens and then they were getting all these fines and stuff because apparently they lived in an area where you can't have chickens. I guess that's the thing. And so you have to research the area and know what you can and can't do on the land and ensure that the land is usable, because if you're going to be living more off grid, you've got some ideas of how you want to use that land, right? And you got to make sure that you fall within the proper boundaries. So that is a really interesting segment. The one thing that I wanted to point out in this, and when we talk about living off grid, this is really about simplifying your life, reconnecting with nature, living more eco-friendly. This is not about living in fear. We are not talking about being a pack rat and, having bags and bags of rice and, a shelter underneath. That is not what we're talking about. We are talking about reconnecting with our planet. And as things start to change that are more noticeable here on our planet, I think what you're going to see, especially when people start getting off the grid with the neutrino boxes that will hopefully be available within the next 6 months because we're starting to build out the labs and go into production on that. And that gets you off the electrical grid. That allows you to power your home. Depending on the size of your home, you may need a couple of boxes for 50 years. And you don't have to be in any kind of neighborhood. I mean, talk about how this planet is going to change. Right now, we are living like we're on top of each other. We're like these sardines. I'm here in California and I'm like, I've got a backyard that's as big as a postage stamp, which drives me crazy, right? And so I think we will start to see more and more people not just going off the grid because they can, but because they're going to feel a calling to just have a different type of life than what we've been offered so far. So that's why we do these kind of interviews, is to get you really, expanding your mind about what's possible here. Our next story is about organic cotton farming. And the whole point of this was to say, we hear a lot about organic food, but what about the clothing you wear? What about the sheets that you put on your bed or the curtains that you hang up in your house? And we go into the benefits of organic cotton versus the synthetic fibers that you find in synthetic cotton, right? And obviously this avoids toxic pesticides, Organic cotton is hypoallergenic and is great for sensitive skin. It is actually more durable. And the synthetic cotton has these microplastics in it. So when you wash your clothes and things like that, these little particles get into our waterways. Why would we want to do that, right? So this story was basically a feature on some of the benefits of organic cotton farming. We need to do something on hemp, on hemp clothing, because I think that might even be a better solution for a lot of this. But organic cotton has to be better than the, synthetic stuff. And then another story that we did was on job sharing. Because as we move forward, we've got this 40-hour work week that is a real pain in the butt for so many people. So I'm a mom. I have 4 kids. And I went through the whole process. I wasn't working like a standard, a typical job when I was having my children. I worked from home. But still, even working 40 hours from home, like there's this whole push and pull that we go through as parents. But this applies to more than just parents, where you feel this pressure to keep going with your job, but really you're like, how am I supposed to raise little babies? And, and then I'm supposed to keep up my regular job so they don't give it to somebody else, right? There's all this pressure. And so job sharing, as we move forward, may be a nice option for people. And it's exactly what it sounds like. One job shared between 2 people. And like I said, it's not just for parents, okay? It can be for anybody. Maybe, older people don't want to work as many hours, but they still want to stay active and stay relevant and, stay in whatever their profession is. But the idea is that you've got 2 people. They each work 3 days a week, and there is one crossover day where they both work. Because you can't really have it where, there's no crossover, because then things get lost in translation and, oh, I thought you knew to do that. And no, there needs to be like a day where everyone gets caught up, right? But what they're finding is, at least for employers that are willing to try this out, that there's so many benefits. So it increases flexibility, obviously, for the employees. There is better work-life balance. And think of what that does for the employee. If they don't feel so torn, then they're going to do a better job at work. Not only that, but it fosters teamwork and collaboration. And you have to work together more, right? So there's this sharing of ideas, and you get different perspectives in the mix, and everything becomes a bit more well-rounded. So maybe this is an alternative for people as we move forward and we really think about different ways to do things that we've been doing our whole life. Because no one should be working for the weekend. That song, Working for the Weekend, that's not cool. You should be enjoying your life. Maybe this is one way to help us get there. So we have a handful of stories, 4 stories that are part of our regional news that I wanted to go over. The first is from the International Energy Agency, which I had never heard of before, but they're out of Paris. And they put out this comment, this notice, and they are saying that this rapid transition to renewable energy, right, this pressure we have to move towards renewable energy, may outpace our current grid infrastructure. And this could cause power shortages, reliability issues, because what's happening here, and this is happening all over the planet, is that these groups and the government, right, they're coming out and saying, oh, we have to limit fossil fuels, which is basically the equivalent of retiring coal and gas-powered plants. But there's a problem because solar and wind is not able to keep up. They can't produce enough windmills and solar panels all over the place to equal what we were doing with coal and gas. And don't even get me started on electric vehicles because, electric vehicles, guys, still require electricity. It's in the name. It's in the name. I have not heard of a solar vehicle yet or a wind vehicle. So they're trying to get rid of what they consider to be these, they call it fossil fuels because they want you to I mean, it's all branding. They want you to think that it's completely outdated. And is there a better way to do this? Do we have to rely on coal and gas power? No, but it's going to take us some time to transition off of that. Solar and wind have major, major problems with this. One thing, and we've talked about this, we've done a report on this before, is that the pollution risks. So recycling of solar and wind, some of those parts you cannot recycle, or it's extremely expensive to do that. Solar panels contain toxic materials that cannot be recycled to date. There's no way to recycle them. But we're supposed to be filling up our planet with all of this. And then what do we do when the solar panels go bad? Because, that's another strategy from big companies, right? Only make something that lasts a few years, so you have to replace it and give them a bunch more money, right? So we have not thought this through. And I'm very appreciative of people like the International Energy Agency to come out, and hopefully more people will start saying this. Like, what you're trying to do doesn't make sense. And they're trying to push all these electric vehicles. But the problem is, even if you turn a blind eye to what it's doing to our planet to dig up the materials needed for these batteries that are blowing up in people's faces, even if you ignore that, we don't have enough of these power stations around town to get people to power their vehicles so they can keep going throughout the day. It is a giant mess. And then, like I said, you still need electric to power some of this stuff. So we still have to have what coal and gas is giving us. And the truth is, these numbers are just not adding up. All right, our next story is about the public being misled. This is specifically about the UK, but this is happening around the world. Consumers being misled by claims of eco-friendly bamboo cups and children's tableware, which is promoted as being good for the environment, right? But what the Food Standards Agency is saying, so they call themselves the FSA, is that with these things are being touted as being better for the environment, it's eco-friendly, and they love throwing bamboo in there, right? Because bamboo is supposed to be best for everything. Well, this agency is saying that with these items, with a lot of these items, there is the potential for accelerated plastic degradation. So the same thing that they're saying, oh, it'll break down easily in the environment and stuff, it's also breaking down while you're using it. And it's contaminating your food and drink. And so what the FSA is saying is that, hey, there are some real health risks here for small children. Not just small children, but obviously if it's their tableware that they're using, it can impact them. But anyone that is using these kind of cups, and I'm sure there's bowls and, whole, lineup of things that they use these products in, it is releasing melamine and formaldehyde into what we are consuming, especially if the liquid is hot. So the FSA is saying these items should be immediately removed from the shelves. Of course, it doesn't give us specifics on what brands are using them or whatever, but this just goes to show you they promote it as one thing, but the true story behind it is something completely different. So, they did this with straws and all this other kind of stuff, and so this is one more thing. Okay, so a couple stories here out of the U.S., and the first is a pretty big move from Arkansas. So Arkansas is forcing a Chinese-owned business to sell 160 acres of farmland that's in their state. And this is based on a new law, literally just came out this year in 2023, which for Arkansas, it prohibits foreign-controlled parties from owning land in their state, which makes a lot of sense to me. So here's the interesting thing. This Chinese-owned business that Arkansas is trying to force out, well, the company is actually based in Switzerland, but get this, it's owned by a Chinese military company. So you have to do some digging, guys. They're not going to make it easy for you. So if you're trying to see who actually owns what, I mean, it's like the big game of who owns, the different corporations. And really, there's like 5 media groups that like control all media in the world, because it's like this company owns this company, which owns this company. And this is an example of this. Obviously, they were trying to hide this. The company is based in Switzerland, but it's really what? A Chinese military company? How in the world? And get this, what the company focuses on is seeds, okay? And they're also in the pesticide industry. Oh, that's not suspect at all, right? And so what the article is talking about and the story is talking about is a concern with these types of companies that are actually foreign companies in Arkansas, right? That they will relay information and tech back to their home country, which obviously poses a threat to national security and local farming. I think that's being nice. I mean, this company, like I said, is in the seeds and pesticides industry. I think my bigger concern is that they're just poisoning everybody. I mean, we're not exactly on good terms with China. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. All right. And then here's another health-related story. Toddler milk warning. So the American Academy of Pediatrics says parents are being misled because there are these drinks out there called toddler milk. I actually did not have this with my kids. I don't know if it's a fairly new thing. But these drinks focus on children up to age 3. And basically, it's supposed to supplement other things that they're getting in their diet. And this is kind of scary. A study showed 60% of parents and caregivers believe that their children or their kids that they're watching may not have proper nutrition without these types of drink mixes. What is that, guys? That is really good marketing on the side of these toddler milk products. That's all that is marketing. If you were able to convince 60% of parents that what they're giving them, if they're giving them nutritious food, is not good enough, and you have to have a toddler milk drink in order to support that and to make everything complete, well, that's some really good marketing, right? And what health experts are saying is that these drinks are nutritionally incomplete, that they're loaded with sugar and salt. It could lead to obesity and disease. And instead, here's a light bulb moment. Families are encouraged to eat fortified grains, milk, protein, fruits, and vegetables. Common sense, right? Which isn't always that common. But I think we're going to see more stories come out like this, specifically when it comes to baby formula. We're not going to get into it now. We haven't run a story specifically about baby formula ingredients before, but I can tell you I've got a lot of experience in this area, and even doing research, not just for my own kids, but for other shows and programs that I've worked on. And that is an unregulated area, and I don't even want to tell you what they're putting into not just toddler milk, but the things that they're putting into baby formula. And think of everything that's going on in your child and everything that's developing in your child. It makes sense that these horrible, human beings out there would do this, right? Because they want us to stay dumb and not realize what they're doing to us and, keep us as slaves. But it's just, it's demonic. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible what they do to children in so many different ways. And I guess we can add toddler milk to the mix as well. All right, now it's time for the World Situation Report with Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. So Kimberly's job is to help us transition into a fully light age with, being a light planet that is for the betterment of all organic beings. So if you are inorganic, which I think most of those beings are gone off our planet by now, but any kind of dark essence, dark matter, dark humans, okay, don't really mix with the light. And as we've been talking about on the news, we have been doing everything possible. Kim and her team have been doing everything possible to work with these people who think that they're running the planet. It's the people that think they're running the planet, but they're not. They're just kind of causing a lot of harm. And right now, especially everything in Israel, they're hurting a lot of people. And our hope was that we could give them information, or we could tell them how to access information that would prove everything we've been saying is true. And then they would realize that there is no sense harming humanity, thinking demons are going to come back and other ET creatures are going to come back and, give them access to the financial system and come in and save the day and give them a bunch of money, that there's no use in doing that anymore because we are no longer in a dark age. We have transitioned out of that dark age. We were there for millions of years, guys. We are out of the dark age. We are now in a light age. And because of that, all their little things that they used to do, their alignments and rituals, none of that works anymore. And they're trying to figure out why they can't create World War III, because you can't do that in a light-based system. And so the things we talk about on the news, a lot of times Kim will talk directly to the people that she's talking about because we know that a lot of them watch the news. And that's a good thing because Kim's able to talk directly to them and give them information. Now, within the last week, she's given out a lot of information that we've talked about on this podcast that they could verify. And so the group that Kim refers to as Langley 5, which is a group of 5-star generals, they essentially went on a fact-finding mission after watching our news, which is a good thing. Now, everyone thinks that the Library of Alexandria, that completely burnt down and all the documents within it. That is not true. The documents were moved to Malta, and I believe it's deep underground. It's not something that you can, trust me, they keep that stuff under wraps. Okay? So Langley 5 goes and gets this information from the Library of Alexandria, realizes that Kim is probably telling the truth. Okay. They also put in some calls with the archivists. So if you've heard us talk about the archivists before, these are the people that keep track of the things that are submitted and approved in the Hall of Records. So we have a Hall of Records that keeps track of important things like covenants and, laws that were passed and things like that. So if something has expired or an age or transition or something like that has happened, it is filed with the Hall of Records. And so the combination of doing their own research leads them to believe that, holy cow, like this blonde woman, meaning Kim, is telling the truth. She's really telling the truth because they thought she was just a crazy person that thought she had control. I mean, not like we haven't heard that before from a million different white hat people, right? And so they realized that she was telling the truth. And they decided to rub it in the face of one of the 15 military groups. Umbrella Military Corporation is what they call themselves. And all of these people, again, they're vying for power, okay? And so they're not really that pleasant with each other. So when I say they, were going to rub it in their face, it was because Umbrella Military thought that they were, going to take over and, look at us. We're going to get everybody money. It's going to be all good. We're going to save the day. And after Langley 5 got this information, they're basically shoving it in Umbrella Military's face going, yeah, you're not going to do anything. You take a look at this. And not to be a good guy either, because they're all vying for power. Your ego and money and power will be the death of you, okay? And it just hasn't gotten through to these people, or they just don't care. Because for a split second, Kim thought that now that they had the information, maybe there was a chance for them to turn things around. And that didn't exactly happen. So let's pick it up, and Kim can tell you more about some of the meetings that they had and what happened after that.
So they got this information and they were pretty well stunned. Meetings took place on Sunday. They started Sunday midday U.S. time and went on all night long last night. Somewhere along the way, probably early evening my time, they weren't going to go down without a fight. They had determined we were changing ages. They felt that it wouldn't be complete until the end of the day today, and they were going to go down swinging. And swinging they did. They managed to pull together 3 private military groups, one of which is the all-famous Blackwater, now called Frontier. One of them is an American group, and the last one was a British group. Now, when we had grounded militaries all over the world, we did not ground the private military groups. I didn't think about it. I figured, well, if you can't pay them, they're not going to go anywhere. but apparently that's not true. So they told them that they would have money by 3 o'clock today. And that is what has caused all of the deaths in the Gaza Strip. They've been targeting hospitals regularly. That seems to be a common theme. They have carpet bombed. Haven't seen that in a while. They have carpet bombed entire neighborhoods. In the last 24 hours, about 500 people at least have died, not to mention the amount of injured people. So this was all coming from Umbrella Military Corporation and Langley 5. When they figured out that they had lost, they refused to accept they had lost. So they figure if they continue on with this killing of people, that their alien friends would surely come and invade this planet. Now, if that doesn't work, they had a backup plan. They were going to call me and they were going to threaten me with the detonation of something that had been placed here by the others, evil others. You could liken this to a severe, I wouldn't call it nuclear so much as I would call it radiation attack on the planet. They had everything from the magnetic pole to the center of Earth rigged. This was done thousands of years ago. This was not done by humans. And they intended to threaten me with the detonation of this. Now, see, I know things that they don't know. That's unobvious. They're only learning some things now. See, I know for a fact that Marduk, I guess you would say in this case, would have never given those humans the keys to detonate such a large toy.
Right.
There was a few things in the sun tied to this, a few things in Zero Point, the multiverse 0 Point that used to connect Omega and Alphaverse. And I knew that, but just in case, we went ahead and we got rid of it anyway earlier today. So I didn't know it was there. We didn't see it. But I definitely know that they didn't have all the keys required. They had people in a few different bunkers in a few different locations, in Georgetown and in Germany in Hitler's old tunnels, and also in the U.S. They had run some minor tests over in the Nevada nuclear site, test site, over the weekend as well. So that's, this has been something they've been eyeing for a while. But they think so highly of themselves that they think these people cared. The others never cared. They don't care about you're human. You might be a hybrid, but you're human. You might be a bloodline, but you're still a human. And therefore, you're no less food than we are. But there was a time where we kind of halted a lot of operations yesterday because we thought there was a chance that these people would figure out that everything had pretty much gone away. There was no more dark consciousness. There's no more computer access. There's no more keys to systems. They're certainly not going to blow up the planet with radiation. I don't know where they were going to live. Most of those bunkers and dumbs are gone.
Not even care.
I know,
yeah.
I know. Common sense is not all that common. But I do know any kind of toys, I call them toys. They're not toys. They're very serious. But any kind of things like this, Marduk would always have the final say.
Sure.
Always remain relevant. If there is a plan and it goes from A to Z, he always had Z. He would never let go of Z. Never give it to anybody else, probably not even his father and brothers or anybody else. So I obviously knew that this wasn't going to happen for that reason. So what are they going to do now? I don't know. But one thing is clear, we should have never halted operations. I had a thought in my mind for just a minute there that they might figure it out and might, just may decide to do the right thing. But I was wrong. So we will never be halting operations ever again, and we're still hunting them down like dogs. We went into the Middle East about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, my time, counteracted pretty much everything they had, everything that they were doing, and things seem to have calmed down a little bit now from what they were overnight. So we're not participating in their war financially or otherwise. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just sitting here waiting for them all to die. That's where I'm at.
How many people, Kim, are we talking about now?
How many do we have left?
Yeah, these people that are causing all this damage, how many have to be taken out?
Well, we're going to start at the top of the ranks, as we always do. What's left of the top, what they consider to be the top at the moment. So you're talking about the Order of the Dragon family bloodlines. It's going to be the whole bloodline. We can't waste any more time. Same thing with all of the militaries and all their families, the 15 militaries and all their families, wives, children, everybody's got to go, because we can't take the chance right now of somebody else coming up and taking their place. They've done it to themselves. You have now officially done it to yourself. So I wish you all well, and I hope you all enjoy the next, few days of your life, and don't call me, we won't call you. Now, if somebody else steps up from the next rank down in the operatives groups, plural, then we're just going to throw them right in with the rest of them and just keep going until there's nobody left. Because there is no fixing this. How do you get that much information in a 24 to 48 hour period? You are now understanding that you are not going back. In other words, there are no more things in other densities coming for you. There's no more portals. There's no more computers. There's no more AI systems. There's no more, aliens coming to save you. And why would you be so bold to think that someone would have given you the ability to blow up a planet without having the final key and the final say? If that was done to you for the nuclear weapons on this planet, from beginning to end, from country to country, there's always a third key that has to be hit. Maybe there's a nuclear football in here and whatever, but that's just one. Mm-hmm. The final key always is in the alpha system. It's always in the alpha system. It's not even in the omega system. It was always in the alpha system. Because at the time when all these mechanisms were built all around the world, there was supposed to be balance. Remember? So if someone had the final detonation key, the other one would have to agree with you and detonate as well. That's the way the world really works. So I don't think I plan on blowing myself and all of you up anytime in the near future. Therefore, that, the mechanism is gone now, and, the keys for those types of things are gone. I still have all the keys to the major nuclear weapons on the planet and everything else. So I could actually choose now, because we're not in a balanced state, to do whatever I want without anybody else, any country, any general, anywhere deciding they want to do something. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to participate. Heck, I could just point them all at your respective homes and go for it. If there wasn't going to be radiation to the people around you, because you're not worth it. But there's plenty of other things you can do with systems. Everything always had a built-in back door. You can fly planes all by themselves. You can do all kinds of things by yourself. And if you haven't seen it yet, I told you to watch that movie Heart of Stone, where the guy operates and drops an elevator down, whatever it was a ridiculous number of floors, and kills all the people in the elevator. So we can find you anywhere at any time. Mm-hmm. Plus, we also have boots on the ground that are helping us do that. So you never know who's going to go bump in the night, and you probably won't even see them because we have better technology than you. They could have been smart. They could have wised up. They could have, just for a moment, took the information and said, oh, look, we went into another age. Here's the proof. The ACIO has confirmed it. The archivists have confirmed it. And they could have figured out how they were going to live in a different world. Nope. So have a nice life for what's left of it, people, because we're done. There's no going back. There's no halting. There's no stopping. There's no negotiations anymore. You can all just go.
Now, I know this has caused a lot of conversation actually on our Telegram group with people who are concerned about the loss of life for innocence. And this is a very tough situation. What Kim is talking about is a very difficult thing that she has to do. However, nobody knows better than Kim how many times she has tried to do things that would prevent a situation like this. And what I'm specifically talking about is taking out whole families, because that is something that I think for most of humanity, we just think about our own families and how devastating, I wouldn't want, my quote unquote issues or sins or whatever you want to call them. I wouldn't want that to impact my children. But you have to understand that we are not dealing with normal human beings here, because a lot of them aren't even completely human, to be honest. They're hybrids or they're from whatever bloodline or whatever, but their whole families are trained in this. So you cannot risk, like Kim said, you cannot risk more of these things popping up. We can't allow innocent people to keep dying. So it is a very difficult position, but this has to be done. And the other thing that I wanted to say, too, is you have to understand that death is not permanent. It's not even a thing. Death is not a thing. So what we see in this 3D world is kind of the aftermath, and we see things being blown up and carnage and things like that. And that's what we associate with death. But you have to understand that when people are sent back to source, first of all, it's not always that kind of violent thing. Sometimes their whole body and everything just disappears. But even beyond that, they're going back to source because they can't function in this world. Whatever deck of cards that they were given, whatever, they chose because they were here and they made certain decisions, right? And even before they came here, there were certain decisions that they made. So they're going back to source because we can't work with it here. But that being still exists in some capacity. And sometimes the best thing is to send it back to the creator so that that being can be reborn in a different environment with a different family and actually have a fighting chance. So I just wanted to say that because I know this is some difficult news to take in. And Kim and I talked about it. I didn't play it today, but we talked about it further on in the news. I'm like, these people don't even care about their families. It's heartbreaking. As a human being, like I said, I've got 4 kids of my own. I can't wrap my head around that. But I believe in Source. I believe in Kim. I believe in humanity and our need to move forward and to protect the life of so many other people on this planet. And that is the crossroad that we're at right now. So what should you do now? If a lot of this is new to you guys, I encourage you guys to head on over to our website, unitednetwork.tv, perhaps become a member. There is a free 3-day trial if you guys want to check that out. Go back and listen to previous newscasts, previous world situation reports, get caught up, and check it out. And do your own research. Don't just believe us because, I said something on this podcast or Kim said something on the news. Like, this is really important. Again, use your own discernment. Trust in that. It's very, very important. And if you do want to connect with us, we have a new link on unitednetwork.news. It's unitednetwork.news/connect. It has all of our links to our Telegram groups, our websites, and different things that you can use to reach out and start a conversation with maybe us. Maybe you want to become a field messenger. There's a lot of great ways to get involved. All right, guys, thanks for listening today. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.